Hi, I'm Mike Mathews, Operations Manager at the Janesville Innovation Center, and this week we're celebrating Startup Week in Rock County, and this is one of the presentations that is taking place across the county this week. With me today, Mary Jo Knueppel from DLG Naturals, Brian Garcia from Copper Fire Teas, and Chad Kaderabek from K4 Innovations. All three of these companies are located here at the Innovation Center, and we're going to talk a little bit about their experience with the Innovation Center. But before we do that, just to give you a little background on who we are and what we're about, the Janesville Innovation Center was actually started about 5 years ago, funded with U.S. Economic Development Administration grant of $1.2 million, and the city of Janesville provided the land and some of the cash that was needed to start this operation. We have 22,000 square feet. 18,000 of that is manufacturing space with overhead doors and docks and all the things that a manufacturer or distributor might need. We also have 2,000 square feet of office area, 1,000 of that that's actually available after the first of the year, so we can talk a little bit more about that. So the Innovation Center was really started with the idea of trying to diversify the tax base here in Rock County and Janesville. We really focus on manufacturing, IT, information technology, and professional and scientific firms as firms that we work with. And our operation really is geared around startup and early stage businesses. So if a business has gotten started and needs space to grow, needs a space that's more professional in its nature, that's what we're here for. We have leases that run typically for a year at a time with a renewal, but we recognize that sometimes things don't work out the way they might have been anticipated, and so with 60 days notice, we can work with a company to allow them to get out of their lease and to move on to things that make better sense for them. So flexibility and really trying to be cost effective for startups. Our facilities are all turnkey in nature, so we have phone, internet, offices that are readily available, and the tenants just pay a monthly lease rent that includes all those aspects of their business. So if you're interested in learning more about the Janesville Innovation Center, you can find us at janesvilleinnovation.com, and there is background information and application if you have an interest in joining us here as part of this community. So with that background, I just want to start by thanking Mary Jo and Chad and Brian. It's been a pleasure to work with these companies as they've started and grown in the community. And the first question I want to pose to all of you is that you all have something in common in that you really started in your homes before you moved to the Innovation Center. And so, Mary Jo, if you could just talk a little bit about what it was like being in your home with a business, how you made this decision to be at the Innovation Center, and what that transition was like.
Well, obviously, one of the things when you're in your home and your business is in your home, you're on 24/7, 365. There's no getting away from it unless you leave and go on vacation or something like that. So the phone rings in the evening, you have to pick it up. Phone rings on the weekend, you have to pick it up. Your office is always right outside your door. And for us, the warehouse was there too. It got to the point with us, once we import oils from Southern Africa. Once we started importing in drums, we didn't have the means to handle them at home anymore. And we couldn't exactly roll those in and out. You know, they're 450 pounds. You can't roll those in and out across linoleum or pergo and not have it do damage. So we ended up keeping those in the garage, and that wasn't a very clean place to keep them. So for us, it was a matter of we were outgrowing where we were at. You know, it kind of started as an idea, it blossomed sort of to a hobby stage, and then we were taking it into a business. And as we grew, we just needed to have more space. Our inventory was getting stacked up. We didn't have room to turn around in 2 rooms. It just was kind of creating a frantic nature that, it was always there. We couldn't get away from it. And when we moved down into the first warehouse we went into, we got back home and there was this sense of relief in the house. It was like, oh, the house just seems lighter. It seems more spacious. It's bigger. And we didn't have to say, oh yeah, there's that order we got to take care of this weekend. It was all down here. And we were back in Evansville. And it gave us the time to go to the office and be prepping for coming in and then going home and leaving it behind. So when we got home, we weren't at the office all day again. So there was that great separation. And that's probably, for me, was one of the biggest things that made me go, so there was separation and we could turn it off. Because otherwise we were on constantly. And it just led to you being tired out all the time. So that, for me, was one of the big things.
That's a great lead into Brian's situation, because Brian had kind of a similar situation where you started out of the house. It was a part-time position. And
yeah, we started with manual screen printing equipment. I do have a business partner, John, who's not here right now. He's on duty at the firehouse. And it started, our kids were in first grade together, and it kind of started as something we could do on the side. We both had young kids at the time that are a few years older now, but how do we pay for college? And so we started this in my basement. We were both still working full-time. I was a police officer up in a jurisdiction up outside of Madison, and we were doing it part-time. Orders would come in, friends, family, referrals, that kind of thing. And eventually my wife started prompting, get this out of my basement. But the other part of it was just, it's in my house. Not me and John's house, my house. So by moving down here, same thing that she said, it creates that separation. And it enabled John to maybe be here when I'm at work or I'm doing something else, so he's not in my basement while my family's upstairs going about their daily life. So it kind of took away that awkwardness. As things grew and progressed, we moved in here. We started out with about 1,400 square feet of shop space. We were originally going to be one of the smaller offices. Within a month or two, we moved into one of the larger offices. And that lasted us for about 13 months. We came into this with the hope of 18 to 24 months getting into automated screen printing equipment. And I think we ordered it about 4 or 5 months after we moved in here. So that got installed last September of 16. I gave my notice to the police department about 3 weeks later, and I've been here now full-time for just over a year. During that time, we realized we need more space, and we actually moved into a larger bay on the other side of the wall, which gives us 4,200 square feet of space. But the other nice thing is it opened up by us moving into there. It enabled all three of us to move our spaces based on what needs we needed. Chad was able to downsize because he didn't need as much space. She was able to move into my larger space. So we all worked together, and actually we kind of had all the details worked out before we even approached you and just said, hey, Mike, we've all been talking. This is what we all need. And it ended up coming together in a couple months. So the space, the separation, like Mary Jo said, but having the ability that, we have free reign, free access to the whole building 24/7. If I need to be here Saturday afternoon, it's not a problem. If I need to be here at 2 in the morning, which I often am, I don't have to worry about any issues.
That's right.
So,
and Chad started his business with his wife Jenny, and you guys are working out of your home as well.
I loved it. I loved having our business and our personal life together, because I enjoyed what I was doing. But it came to a point about a year and a half into business where I'd be talking to potential customers, and they'd be Googling us. And of course, Google Maps would take us right to our home. Like, oh, you work out of your home. Yes, we work out of our home. So, of course, that took some of the legitimacy of our company away. So we started looking for a place where we could move in. It was really difficult because there was nothing where it's just a small space that we wanted to move into. including warehousing space. Everything was 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 square feet. But we ended up moving our inventory just down the street from the Janesville Innovation Center, and we would drive by here all the time. And we'd go, what is this place? So then a sign went up, and then there was an article in the paper about the Innovation Center. We got a hold of Mike, and he was perfect fit because he had different office spaces we could fit into, and we were just looking for kind of the next step. And then after we were here for a year, Mike was able to work with us on bringing our warehouse in here. So, and then even since that, we've decided that we didn't need to add a lot of headcount, and we didn't need as much inventory. So like Brian said, we were able to downsize to a smaller office and to a smaller bay for our products. So, for a startup company or a small company, the flexibility, I think, is immense.
So you guys have each touched on just the fact that you started with one original space and have been able to kind of move and migrate into other spaces, and that's really one of the things that we had purposely built in to make sure that we had that ability to meet your needs as you grew and expanded. And actually, Mary Jo, your
We started
approach,
in
your
this-
your
We started
approach.
small and moved upward.
And you were really looking at retail distribution channels initially, and you've moved into more of a wholesale
Right.
approach. And Chad had moved from more of a
Wholesale
wholesale and
to
manufacturing
retail.
post to retail. So the footprint for your inventory was reducing while your inventory footprint was increasing, and Brian was adding equipment. And the fact that we were able to organize this dance and have everybody get into the space that they needed at the time that they needed it was, a credit to all of you working together. And but I think that it's a good example of how we try to operate and meet the needs of our companies here as they grow. So one of the things that I wanted to ask about is what would you say the key advantages of the space are today? I mean, obviously it was a move for each of you from your home, but now as you have kind of lived in the Innovation Center for a period of time, you have vendors coming in, you have employees. What would you say are kind of the key advantages of having a location like you have here at the Innovation Center?
Well, for us, one of the big things is we went from having semis coming to our home, having to have lift gate to bring everything down, and then a means to get that drum of oil or that pallet from the road in. Now we have a dock. They back right in. It cuts down our shipping charges. It makes handling so much easier. There is a pallet jack here that we can use. We've got the equipment here now to make it so that we can handle the volume that we're doing. That's been one of the main advantages. A second advantage is having the flexibility in space so that we could move from a smaller office to a larger office, from a smaller warehouse to two warehouses to one big warehouse. And ultimately, I think one of the other advantages is the cost structure is such that for a small and growing business, it's affordable. It fits in our budget.
Similar to that, having the space. I mean, now that we've grown and we've invested into automated equipment, we have ourselves positioned that if somebody called and said, "Hey, we need 25,000 T-shirts," my response would be, "When do you need them by?" Not, "There's absolutely no way I can manually print 25,000 shirts in my basement. It's not physically possible." But having, like she said, the dock doors where you have product that can come in by the skid load and not UPS bringing me 112 boxes cuts down on shipping expenses. And it gives us that legitimacy, like Chad was talking about, that we're not just two guys printing shirts in a basement. And that's kind of the turning point we're at now. Is it kind of started out as, Brian and John making T-shirts, and we're now transitioning to Copper Fire Tees as a business ran by Brian and John. And those are two totally different things, and that's kind of the hurdle that we're getting over now, and having the equipment and having the facilities and the resources to do that is enabling us to take on larger and larger accounts. Because there's a lot of work out there. People, may not always realize, I mean, screen printing, there is printers all over the country, shipping all over the country. It's not just a local market. You know, some of the hot market events where when you have a World Series or a Super Bowl, the way those shirts are in the stores the next morning, you know, for example, last year when the Cubs won the World Series, there was 13 or 15 print shops around the greater Chicago area that printed like 4.7 million shirts in less than 48 hours.
Unbelievable.
You know, but you have to have the ability
Yeah,
to, but you
yeah.
have to have the ability to do that. And you have to have screens set up, shirts on standby, and the minute that last out is recorded, you're printing.
Yeah.
And you're not stopping for 2 or 3, 4 days. By having the space now to do that, we can bring in pallets of shirts, have them staged. We've partnered with one of the local temp agencies that we've used for some employment stuff where if we had that huge order and for a week I need 6 bodies, it's a phone call away. So that gives us a lot of tools to be able to take on the larger orders.
Yeah, and one of the observations is just in your time here, you so greatly increased your capacity with all the equipment, and I like the distinction that you make about Brian and John making T-shirts to Copper Fire as a business, and you
Right.
guys are running the business. Chad, what would you say have been some of the key
Well,
advantages of
Now
the
when
space?
when our customers Google us, they see this great, nice new building, and it's huge, and you know that that question's now gone when they Google us. All right, you're a real company. The other advantage of coming into this facility is now we have. You know what's the hardest thing about being an entrepreneur? You don't have people who share the same experience. Now we're all in different businesses. But like for Mary and myself, one thing was they import stuff, we import stuff, and we're able to share ideas and share ways that worked for us and didn't work for us.
Logistics companies.
Exactly. And then with Brian, it was QuickBooks. What are you doing with your accounting system? How do you do that? You know, what struggles do you have? Shipping issues. Those are all things that we can ask questions about. I mean, if you think about it, you can't ask your father that unless he's an entrepreneur.
No.
You can't ask your best friend because he probably has been working for a corporation for 30 years and he doesn't have any idea what you're talking about. So that part of that camaraderie and that shared experience is I think it's just as valuable as having the space.
And to build off of that, even when I was still working full time at another job and being here as much as I can, both of these people, every time they saw me, would tell me, just take the plunge, do it. Quit your job, be here full time. And that went on for probably 3 or 4 months until finally I had enough confidence that I did it. And now whenever anything goes wrong, I just go yell at them.
You can just blame us for
You
it.
remember who
So-
suggested that you make that.
But we all feed off of each other.
Yeah.
So
Well, maybe we can talk for a minute about that, the community aspect of it. So one of the things that's interesting is that there's a lot of common ties across the building. So Mary Jo and DLG have been a provider to Simply Solutions in their product, and so if you have Simply Solutions or Simply Slick lip lube, I guess is the correct title. It contains your product, right?
Right. And Brian, he took care of our shirts. I know he's done it for N1 that's in the building as well. One of the things that I think goes along with camaraderie is being an independent employer. Sometimes you're at a meeting or you were coming in late and UPS was coming in. We signed for each other. We kind of got each other's back because when you're at home and it's only you at home doing this, you don't have anybody else to talk to. So when you're beating your head against the wall, like you brought up QuickBooks, you're beating up your head against the wall about an accounting question, you can't get a hold of your accountant to figure out how to do this, there's somebody else we can go talk to. And it at least gives you a place to vent, get other ideas, and maybe discuss something completely different in the business. Like, what are you doing different with your marketing? How are you doing this? How are you doing that? And having just someone else to talk to besides, for you it was you and your wife. For me it was my sister and her husband. Having other people to talk to about what you're doing and to get out of your box. I think is a big deal.
Mm-hmm. You guys have any other comments about the community aspect of it?
A big one for me, is the UPS thing. I know it sounds trivial, but if I'm with a customer and I have 4 or 5 warehouses that I can pull from on a 1-2 day ship. So oftentimes, if somebody needs shirts on the fly and we only have 2 or 3 days notice, we can make it happen. But if I'm not here, or if I'm in the dark room with a pressure washer going and I don't hear UPS get here, the last thing I need is for them to leave a sticker on my door saying, "Oh, we missed you, we'll see you tomorrow." So we kind of have taken our UPS drivers under our wings, and we've all kind of trained them that anybody in this building can sign for anybody's stuff, and we all have kind of consented to that to UPS. So there's no question of, well, can they sign for it, can they not? And because it's a business address, UPS won't just leave it at the door. So that's been the big thing, is we all just kind of feed off of each other.
I also just volunteer that, Chad, as the on-site operations manager and the point of contact, it's nice to have somebody here who everybody can come to and let them know if there's an issue. And
Or you lock
there's some
yourselves out of
communication.
your office.
As
Which
an
happens
example.
a lot.
Not a lot, just
That's good,
occasionally.
So another area I wanted to just touch base on is, in addition to the real estate here at the Innovation Center, part of what we do is provide business assistant services and management assistance. And each of you have used the growth wheel analysis and assessment tool. You've used, we've all been involved with Merlin Mentors. And I think at some point you've all been kind of contemplating financial options that you might have available and asking questions about that. So could you talk a little bit about that from your perspective, Mary Jo, just in terms of the management assistance piece of the equation?
Well, we found, working with you, Mike, and the growth wheel is one of the tools that Mike uses. We've done review with you 2 years now, and we need to set up our appointment for December to go through it again. But it gives you kind of a basis to see, okay, where were you last year? Where are you this year? And when you're self-employed, one of the things that you often are is your own harshest critic. And you didn't grow as much as you wanted. We only got, 10%. We were looking for 25. And then Mike kindly reminds us, but look back where you were a year ago. So it's kind of nice to have some put a little perspective on that. And also, it does help us with determining what areas of our business do we need to focus on to move forward, to get to where we want to go. What is that hurdle that we're facing that we're running up to and stopping rather than going over? So it's been a very good thing to have those kinds of interactions with you, but also when we were looking to do a market study, you connected us with UW Whitewater's marketing department, and they did a market study for us. I think you helped us with the was it WEDC. They had some grant programs or matching fund marketing programs that we worked with, and Mike helped get us connected with that. So there's a lot of opportunities out there that Mike knows about. Merlin's Mentors is another one. We haven't gotten involved with that one yet, but that's one that's on our to-do list. And it's something that Mike has said, here's another resource to look at. So you've been very helpful that way.
And I should probably just back up and say, for those who might be watching and not familiar with it, Growth Wheel is an assessment tool that we use, and it really looks at 20 different aspects of the business, and it really tries to gauge where are you at relative to where you think you need to be, and at 25, 50, 75, or 100%. And so at the end of it, we can step back from that analysis, that assessment, and look at it and say, we can't really focus on 20 things at once, but we can focus on 2 or 3 key things. And so what are those key areas that we want to focus on? And that's really the idea, is that everybody here is working on a daily basis, just trying to work through today's task list, and for them to step back and take a look at a laundry list of websites that might be relevant to them really isn't helpful. It's frankly daunting. And so what we really want to do is say, based on where you're at and your priorities right now, here are the key things that we think that you might want to check into for resources, and we'll help you get connected to those resources and pursue those if they're going to be helpful. And I mean, you guys have actually been pretty successful. You received the funding from the WEDC, and through WIBIC you were able to secure some additional financing, and you've done a nice job.
Well, the big part about the WEDC, and it was a matching grant where we had to match the amounts that we were putting out. And this was just one of the items. We went to a trade show because we received that funding. And that really catapulted us into the awareness of a lot of the companies out there that we were looking for. You can spend all day researching on the internet, but you go to a trade show and have a booth that's a very focused audience, you gain a lot more perspective. And one of the things in any business is you have to keep showing up at these places where people can see you and meeting the right people, and just keep being present so they know that you're still there. Because if you go to one and you don't go to another one for 5 years, you go into obscurity. And that's how a lot of small businesses fail.
And part of your market area is international
It is.
accounts. So those shows can be very expensive to attend, and so that kind of an offset is helpful in getting in front of that kind of international audience is a benefit.
Yes, it is.
Brian, what would you say about some of the assessments, the management assistance that you've received here?
The growth wheel has been good because we're in a position where we were about a year old when we moved in here, so we were in very early stages and trying to figure out which direction we want to go. Do we focus on the higher margin, smaller local business where you're doing 20, 30, 40 shirts? Or do you want to get into the contract printing where other basically t-shirt brokers are out there selling shirts to different businesses, organizations, events, and then they contract with printers where they're buying the shirts, drop ship them to us, we're simply paid for our printing, and then we ship them out. And there's distinct differences in your revenue that come from those. Selling local, smaller is like I said, much higher margins, but with the contract work, you have almost that guarantee of we're going to have 10,000 shirts a day or 20,000 shirts a week or whatever it is, that you know what your revenue is and you can set your business model around that. And we're still kind of trying to figure out which direction we want to go, whether we want to take on some contract work or not. But that growth wheel assessment, like you said, there's the 20 categories. It's, well, what's important to us and what we're doing now? I mean, there was probably, I don't know, half dozen of things, and when we were sitting there, probably half dozen of those 12 things, it's like, does not apply to us. But there's probably a half dozen or 10 that were critical to what we are doing, and knowing where we stand and talking through it. It's almost like a PowerPoint slide, where somebody who gives a really good presentation, they're not just reading from the slide, they're using it as a talking point, and that's what the growth wheel is. It opens that conversation to the different areas and how everything is going to come together for the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. And we often say that when you're working, spending all your time working in your business, it's hard to find the time to work on your business, and so it's that time that we take to work on the business. And I know, Chad,
you took that's what I was going to say. I had that all prepared, and that was going to be all I was going to say about it. It's a great opportunity to get away from, because we get so involved in the day-to-day functions of the business. It's hard to step back and go, all right, where am I going? What plans do I need to put in place? And that's a good thing of what you bring to the table, as well as the growth wheel is. You've seen a bunch of different ways of businesses are successful and unsuccessful. And I think now you've been working with us all pretty well, where our unique personalities, where you could kind of help steer us into the right direction by reminding us where we're going. Because I like to go 50,000 ways, and you always ask that simple question. It's like, what are you working on right now? So he kind of, you do a good job of kind of helping, at least for me, steer me back to what we talked about and what the grand plan is. Have you sold some inventory yet? That was on your growth wheel. Have you done it? Yeah, I guess I should be working on that.
And you used the Merlin Mentors Network pretty effectively as well. And I know that there were a lot of times you came with questions that were kind of strategy questions for you about what products you wanted to carry, what markets you wanted to be in, what distribution channels, and I think you really got some value from
some value, yeah,
from the folks that you talked to, and your website has been revised and is really given you a platform to grow and expand your offerings, and that's been a big difference for you and your business as well. Yeah. Well, I just wanted to ask one last question, and that would be, if you were talking to somebody that's now working out of their home, maybe you've been at this now for the last year or two, and it's maybe evolved from a hobby, but you've got sales, you've got products and services, you've got sales, and you want to grow the business, what would your advice be to somebody who's in that position, and how they kind of think about where they're at and when's the right time to make that move out of your home?
I think Chad and I are laughing because we're both looking at Brian going, just do it.
I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think there's ever really
a right time.
You're never going to get a letter in the mail.
Never a good time.
You're never going to get a letter in the mail that says, hey, for these 19 reasons, now is the perfect time to do it. You're never going to get that. It's not going to show up.
Because for every 19 reasons to do it, you have 19 reasons not to do it.
Correct.
Or maybe even 20.
And sometimes you just have to take that leap of faith. And having, there is the support network here to help you through some of the struggles and some of the bad days when you just want to say, I'm done. And, we pick each other up and help each other keep moving. And that is one of the big things that's really nice about this place, is that we do have this common goal here of success. We all know that we have to have life balance, but we also want to see our businesses move to the next level. Mm-hmm. And so we support each other. Well, but there is no right time. You need to just decide to do it and go.
Yeah. Just go for it. And you better have passion for what you're going to do. If you're doing it because you think it's a way to make a lot of money, and you have passion for it, great. But if it's a way to make a lot of money and you don't have passion for it, I would question if that's the right move for you. Yeah. And then also you better know yourself very well, because if you don't, you're going to understand yourself. You're good and you're bad. And that's actually a good thing, because a lot of times as you grow your company, you need to somehow structure your company so it takes advantage of what you're good at, mm-hmm. and also support you in what you're not good at. I am not good at accounting, but the way we've kind of built the company with the growth wheel and some of the advice is, we've got support for that now. Mm-hmm. But if you don't understand yourself and your weaknesses, mm-hmm. you will in a short time.
You will figure it out in a quickness. Yes.
Well, I know that you all have things to tend to this afternoon.
Businesses to run?
Yeah, businesses to run. But we just want to thank you for taking the time to sit down with us and share your experience. For those who might have an interest in learning more about the Innovation Center, it's JanesvilleInnovation.com. Again, if you want to fill out an application and spend some time talking about what you're doing and how we might be able to help you, please do that. And again, my contact information is Mike Mathews. I'm the Operations Manager. I can be reached at 206-7121. And look forward to working with all of you who are out there aspiring to grow your businesses.
My name is Kaderabek. I'm with Pipe Fittings Direct, which is our website. Our company name is K4 Innovations. This is an exhaust rain cap. It does not go on your head. This actually go on reciprocating engines. So as these go on top of the outlet of the pipe, and as the exhaust comes through, they're counterbalanced, so it lets the air come out. I mean, the gases come out. And then when it stops flowing, it closes. So no dirt and debris and rain going in. So that's why they call it a rain cap. And we have these from 1 inch up to, we've actually sold some up to 44 inches. We have them in carbon steel, we have them in stainless steel, we even have them in aluminum. So that's kind of our niche, is we have these exhaust flappers in all different types and styles. And then also we have pipe fittings that are welded on the ends of pipes or onto fabricated steel bodies like tanks that are used to attach pipe to. So pretty simple business, but a lot of different applications.
Hi, I'm Mary Jo Knueppel with DLG Naturals. I'm the Director of Sales and General Manager of our U.S. operations. And what we do is we import botanical oils from Southern Africa. We actually have an operating facility there where we're making rule oil, which is this one. And these are fruit seed oils that come from these particular stones. Right here is what they call them. These are some baobab pods that are another one of the oils that we import from Southern Africa. They can go into the cosmetic industry, into personal care products such as lip balms. One of the businesses here in the JIC is Simply Solutions, and they make these particular lip lubes, as they're called, and it uses one of our oils in it. We import, at this point, we import 4 oils and 2 butters, and we primarily market to the personal care industry.
I am Brian Garcia, one of the 2 owners of Copper Fire Tees. We're a full-service screen printing, embroidery, and promotional products. I brought a couple samples of some stuff that we do with my business partner being a firefighter, and I was an ex-cop. We do a lot with the thin blue line, thin red line. So that was one that we had done. Local radio stations, 105.9 The Hog, we do some work with them. This was a 4-color image that we did this last summer for Chaupier Days down in Chaupier during their big truck pull. So we did a image of a turtle tugging I guess they call it a sled for the tractor pull. So that was one of those. I brought it in a couple different colors so you can see that's the same print, same image on 2 different color shirts. And that's one of the things that we really try to work with our customers on, is people have an image that they want, and then they have a shirt that they want. And those 2 don't always go hand in hand. Some images are set up to be printed with darker color inks on light colored shirts, some of them. So we try to work with our customers for that. I brought some can koozies for everybody in attendance so that you can keep your beverages nice and chilly. And then I brought just some sew out samples that we do with our embroidery machines. We always do a sew out before we sew on the customer garment. So just a few samples here that people can take a look at, just to kind of show what we do.